Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for participating in the Tokyo Nutrition for Growth Summit 2021 official side event sponsored by Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. My name is Chisa Abe from Kagawa Nutrition University. I am acting as a moderator for today. Let me introduce today's purpose and participants. The recent COVID-19 has worsened the starvation issue, and countries and regions who are walking away from the starvation and poverty do suffer from the new nutrition challenge, which is the double burden of malnutrition, where hyper and undernutrition coexist. The food is in those countries, food is not taken in a well-balanced manner, and certain nutrition is taken excessively. Under the new normal era, we would like to focus on each individual nutrient and at the same time overall value that food can offer. We would like to promote the initiative to leave no one behind in nutritional policy. And we would like to talk about the fundamental population approach in the dietary education. We would like to offer Japanese lessons learned from the past. Let me introduce today's participants. The chair is Professor Yukari Takemi from Kagawa Nutrition University, Faculty of Nutrition. And let me introduce today's panelist, Ms. Takako Kotake from Cookpad Corporate Branding. We have the director at the Faculty of Human Life Studies at University of Niigata Prefecture, Ms. Nobuko Murayama. We also have Ms. Noriko Nakata, director at the Miketsukuni Wakasa Obama Food Museum. From the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, Food Safety and Consumer Affairs Bureau, we have Ms. Nahoko Maeda. In the first half of this session, we would like to talk about the approach toward the socially vulnerable people under the light of the fourth basic act on Shokuiku food and nutrition. Professor Takemi and Ms. Kotake will be talking about the change in the eating behavior under COVID-19. In the latter half, we will think about the population approach for the vulnerable people. Professor Murayama will talk about the school meal food bank and kids cafeteria. And Ms. Nakata will be talking about Obama City's initiative to improve the nutrition.
So, first of all, for the promotion of the fourth basic plan for the promotion of Shokuiku, to that plan, how to approach to the vulnerable people under the corona impact. So, Professor Takemi, please, the floor is yours. Yes, thank you very much for the introduction. So I'd like to explain and introduce the outline about the fourth basic plan for the promotion of Shokuiku. So the promotion of Shokuiku, education of food and nutrition for not to leave anyone behind, and what kind of behavior change to be important with the population approach. So when Japan introduced this basic act on Shokuiku, we focus on the Shokuiku and position as a center of the nurturing the mind and health and body. And along with the law, 2006, we have the first basic plan, and every 5 years afterwards, we have second and third basic plans. And right now, 2021, from this year, we have launched the basic plan for the promotion of Shokuiku. So this fourth basic plan for the promotion of Shokuiku is based on the consideration and also the identified priority issues by the relevant committees, showing on the right-hand side. From the top, the covering the lifestyle disease or the aging population and healthy longevity. And along these issues, they identify the priorities like key point number 1 about the natural health perspective, promoting the dietary education to support lifelong longevity and the lifelong physical and mental health. And also the plan covers the self-supplementation of the food and food loss, and also the change of the family structure. So Along these issues to be covered, they put the second priority for the promoting nutrition education to support sustainable food. And from this point onwards, the new issue arose that is the corona impact or the COVID-19 impact. And along with that change, the third priority is set from the cross-cutting perspective, which is promoting nutrition education, responding to the digitization and the new normal. And these priority issues are actually reflected upon the relevant point of the SDGs. And what were the goals of this promotion plan? From the beginning, one of the key issues is to how to raise the awareness among the nations about the Shokuiku. The target is to raise the awareness to overall populations like above 90%. So from 2005 to 2020, the graph shows the change of the proportion of the people's level of awareness. Dark pink, very interested in. Pale pink, relatively interested in. And as you can see, the totally 83.2% in 2020 said they are interested in Shokuiku, but there are still some percentage of the population not really interested in or not fully involved in the Shokuiku. So this is the issue and challenge. So who they are and how can we make a good approach and change their mind? That is quite important task to consider. So having said that, for those who are not less interested in Shokuiku, we actually analyze and show some data in relation to the COVID-19 impact. So this is the survey result during the under emergency declaration from the April to May last year. So comparing those whose revenue decreased vis-a-vis not decreased, and also we look at some of the impact, how they spent for the food. Red stands for the group whose household income reduced. And for those there's no change is shown in blue. So the likelihood of the restriction of the food access in lower income household or the less earned household are much bigger than the blue group. And we also analyze how to save the money and how to save the cost for the food or how to preserve the food for long term. These are the dedicated efforts for those group of people. Children's nutrition balance is shown here. And the data from the Professor Nakayama's group's analysis data is actually quoted. So before and after the COVID-19 emergency declaration, nutrition situation of the children have been changing. So as you can see, the dent of the graph on left-hand side, under the state of emergency, the situation got worse. So the focus is whether the children are having a well-balanced nutrition like main staple, main dish, and side dish, 3 kinds of the dishes multiple times or more than 2 times a day. That's the target, and this is the result. The blue shows that low-income family children, and the situation is worse than other group, and also right-hand sides. So for those, the guardians respond that they have less affordability to the food, and that response rate is high for the low-income household. And again, this is adult data. So during the emergency, how the dieting have changed is reflected. And also we searched that the cooking behavior change. So left-hand side shows 11 recommended food group intake. Like the 11 group includes that the grains and fish and meat and so forth. So those who said, well, the increase of the intake shown in blue and decrease shown in red, and gray shows no change. So we further analyze who are the red ones. So for those who said actually cooking opportunity decreased, the kind of people whose revenue decreased and also economic situation of the family get worsened. And also the blue one shows that the priority of the eating or the dieting get worsened or the lowered. So these are the cooking or food intake behavior and which somehow reflecting the impact of COVID-19. So then how can we approach to this type of group of people? So this is the population approach scheme. So it's shown in the shape like this, the bell shape. So from low risk left hand side to high risk right hand side. So we see the overall population as a shape of the mountain and then approach to all of them shown in a graph. The key for this approach is as shown at the bottom of the box, i.e., the approach to be radical or fundamental. And this shows the quote, actually, Professor Jeffrey Rose's quote. So the approach targeting the population it can be conducted superficially as well as radically. The purpose of the radical level approach is to remove the fundamental issues which pose the challenges to realize the healthy lifestyle. So this can be applied to the education, and what we have to aim for is that a drastic, deep level approach rather than superficial one. So having said that, somehow the superficial approach, population approach, somehow adversely impact. I mean, it has a potential risk to widen disparity. That is the caution we can get from the Professor Jeffrey Rose quote. So originally low-risk people, those who are in left-hand side, actually, after the population approach, they tend to be more better result. They become more aware of taking care of their nutrition and dietary habit. So the mountain now turned to be a kind of hill. So the right-hand side, high-risk people stay as is. And then accordingly, the result of the approach, superficial approach, make the parity much bigger. So in the Shokuiku for the future, as Abe-san mentioned at the beginning, not just having the perspective of the nutrition, but also environment and also the succession of the food culture. With all these in mind and reflected in perspective, we should promote the Shokuiku education of the food and nutrition without leaving anybody behind. So when we said the vulnerable people shown in pink circle, in what sense, in what way they are vulnerable, that we have to identify and by which we should qualify the clear approach to them. And in our fourth plan, we should be able to implement and promote Shokuiku to every single Japanese population. So today, I'm looking forward to have good discussion what we can do in order to attain that purpose. That's all from myself. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Takemi.
So let's move on to the next presentators. Ms. Kotake from the Cookpad. She's going to talk about the how the food schedule has been changed after pandemic started. My name is Kotake from Cookpad. So today I'm going to talk about how our foods have changed under pandemic. I'd like to use some of the global survey of the Cookpad and then really talk about the dietary education. So let me introduce myself first. The Cookpad The mission is looking forward to a meal. 1997, the Cookpad itself was created in Japan, that we have provided the Cookpad so that the people can really search for a different menu. And also we have a Cookpad mat so that the people can really enjoy shopping of foods and ingredients. Even for overseas, we have businesses. As I stated, we have the recipe search Cookpad global platform. At this moment, we have monthly active users are over 100 million, and we have businesses in 76 different countries and regions, and provided by 34 different languages. So let's move into today's topics. So as I stated before, that the Cookpad, the mission is looking forward to a meal every day. So in the world, that the people who are cooking the meals and also people who are really looking forward to a meal, how many of them are in the world? So for the first time in the history, we conducted the cooking frequency in the 2018 in cooperation with Gallup, called World Cooking Index. And last year, the 2020 report was released, so that in this public venue, this is the first time for us to talk about this global report. But the 2020, due to COVID-19 pandemic, the data itself was very unique. So we are going to talk about the dietary education, food education. I hope that this data will be useful for your discussion. 2020, due to COVID-19, well, right after that pandemic started, we had a lockdown and also state of emergency also announced by the government. So people had to stay at home. So this is the annual continuous survey of the cookings. So the home cooking frequency, how was it? But it hasn't changed, almost nothing. I'm surprised to see this too. 2019, 6.9 times a week, and 2020, 6.7 times a week. In China, it decreased tremendously, and then that really contribute to this. So except the China, then the average time of cooking frequency a week is almost the same. So due to COVID-19, the who had the negative impact in the food? Professor Takemi mentioned about these facts, and my data are very close to that. The woman, especially the women with children, had a negative impact with COVID-19. And also the people with the primary education had much more negative impact. When it comes to income, the poor had more negative impact than the rich. So let me go into the detail of this result. So this is a comparison based on genders, 2019 and 2020. So the partner or the female partner or wife. So these are the top 3 countries which had a high frequency of cooking by wife, female partner. In Jordan, 56, and also the dinner, 52 more dinners than a man. In Jordan, Lebanon, and in Saudi Arabia, top 3 countries, that the gender gap index, this is done by the World Economic Forum, and Jordan, 131st, Lebanon, 132, Saudi Arabia and Iraq, 147th and 154th. So very low rankings. So as I stated before, these the more the gender gaps are, then due to COVID-19, the meal have to be fun and enjoyable, but the female partner really get the burden of cooking meals at home every time. So this is the financial surplus to buy food and also cooking frequency. In principle, if you don't have enough money to buy foods, then the cooking frequency increases. However, in 2020, according to the latest data, we have a different phenomena. In 2020, the people who had the negative impact of the COVID-19 or people who don't feel any impact from the COVID-19, rather than the meal, I'd say the frequency of the cooking reduced by 1. So rather than not cooking, they decided not to eat. So financial situation of the family, the 1 out of 3 experienced lower wages due to pandemic. So not just food, but also some of them had to really reduce the times of a meal. So that is the result that we learned from this survey. So that was a very simple review of our survey, but I would like to summarize 3 points so that maybe we can talk about these in our discussion. So when it comes to the home cooking meal, we usually think it's joyful and fun. This should be contributed to the individual health and also societal health and also global health. It is very critical. However, the cooking becomes the burden of a woman, and the gender gap should be shortened by the food education. And as Professor Takemi said, that the undernutrition and also the shortage of food are there. And how do we make sure that they really learn about the healthy food? So what can we do to really help them to learn about the healthy food? And I think this type of event is very important. We have to communicate this to the many people, really have to instigate the discussion. So I really want to discuss all these points in the discussion today. So when it comes to food education, government, UN, I think Nakata-san said that the community can really working on the food education. But in the private companies like us should really get involved in the dietary education. And we, the Cookpad, through the cookings, we really want to contribute to the people, community, and also the earth. And we have a special home cooking class in the schools in the Tokyo metropolitan area because we are all connected through the food and also cooking. Many private companies get involved in these type of activities, but I think that the people in different background should really get access to the food education so that it will contribute to the population approach. Lastly, the Cookpad believes that the cooking is wonderful activities. It is not limited to Japan, but also people in the world should really enjoy the local food. And even in limited ingredients, they should be able to find a way to enjoy the food and make it really tasty. And even the people who don't really have much of the cooking skill can still enjoy cooking and also serving the meal for the family. I think that is very meaningful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kotake. Based on the 2 presentations that we have heard so far, we would like to hold a 10 minutes discussion. Based on 2 presentation, we now understand that superficial population approach is difficult to reach out to the socially vulnerable people. Whether or not there is a high interest or whether or not the gender or income disparity exists may worsen the nutritional disparity. Because of those, we need a fundamental population approach that can completely cover socially vulnerable people. And we need a community-wide dietary education system. Women with children or the poor are heavily hit by the COVID-19. Cooking should be basically fun. However, in the countries where we see major gender disparity, the cooking is a burden on women. And the frequency of cooking and eating has reduced. Therefore, that led to the malnutrition. Now, there are two questions. People who are vulnerable include people whose income has dropped due to COVID-19, low-income household children, women, and also elderly can be considered as socially vulnerable people. Who should we pay most attention to socially? That's my first question. Ms. Nakata, please. Ms. Nakata, please unmute yourself. Sorry about that. Can you hear me? Yes. The lifelong dietary education and mandatory dietary education program in Obama will be introduced later on, but we should definitely pay attention to children and kids. We need to look at each individual children, and at the same time, we need to look at them at the high level. Thank you very much, Ms. Nakata. Then Professor Murayama. Thank you very much. We should leave no one behind. From that perspective, we need to pay attention to the people who are difficult to speak up by themselves. We need to pay particular attention to those people. Children are one of those, especially the household who's on social benefit. Their children, what kind of food or nutrition related challenges are we faced with? That's something I am planning to talk about later on. Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Murayama. The people who require special attention are women with children, low-income household, elderly, homeless people, foreign people living in Japan, and non-full-time workers. These two panelists paid particular attention to children. And if you have any initiative implemented, please let us know later on. Thank you. Let me move on to the second question. In the middle of COVID-19, the greater the gender disparity, the greater the burden of doing the dishes on women. The burden of cooking is actually related to various factors such as psychological burden, food knowledge, food attitude, food skills, cooperativeness of family members in the household chores, and access to food and information. Amongst those whose household income decreased during the state of emergency period had a higher need for information such as how to save money on food, and which made me feel that there may be some issues to be addressed, such as the lack of information provision required by vulnerable groups, both in terms of content and provision channels. So is there any other needs that we were not really able to address amongst the vulnerable people? Ms. Kotake, please. Thank you very much for appointing me. From information perspective, I would say, we are the one who are offering the information mainly about eating. And the people who we would love to reach are difficult to reach in reality. As I mentioned earlier, they include schools. We cannot take a one-way approach. We need a more interactive, approach. That's why we are making a picture book for children. We need to make sure that we go proactively, closer to them. Thank you very much, Ms. Kotake. So the close-by support is very important. Thank you very much. That was Ms. Kotake. Now, I would like to ask participants if you have any comments. For those who are participating remotely, please push the hand raise button.
Yes, so please have the comment question from the sub room. Yes, my name's Sajiki, and I'm the self-employee, and from that position, I'm engaged in Shokuiku evaluation and activities. So I have many questions, but due to time restriction, I would select some of them.
So earlier we talked about, vulnerable. I mean, it's difficult to reach out to the vulnerable people. And if I go back to page 5 of Professor Takemi's presentation, the information that are hard to reach didn't include the traceability. So I guess the concept of traceability doesn't exist to start with. But the other day, I was listening the session throughout the day, but they talked about the importance of traceability, but that traceability was not listed in that page. And I guess that indicates one challenge. And number two, children are vulnerable people. I agree with you. And I think we will be listening to the initiatives taken by the city of Obama later on. But other than the city of Obama, of course, there are many municipalities who are offering school meals. I would like to understand what is the reality because the information is lacking, probably due to certain reasons. So depending on the region, I heard that there is a serious school meal related issues. So the question is, how can we address those issues? Because that's how we can improve the food and nutrition condition of the children. So that's something I wanted to listen to the panelist opinion. Thank you very much. Professor Takemi, do you have a comment? Yes. This survey was actually multiple answer-based question. So with regard to the traceability, we didn't include the traceability in the questionnaire to start with, so that was actually our fault. So we are studying into nutrition science, so we are promoting the well-balanced meal. So in order to make that happen, what kind of initiatives do we need to take? From that perspective, we conducted that survey. As a part of that survey, people whose household income dropped, how can they be characterized? That was one of the results of our survey. So the traceability or food policy, those are, of course, important issues. Thank you very much. Second, do you have any comments on the school meals? Yes, the issues related to school meals, I think will be presented later by Professor Murayama, and I think it will be included in the presentation by the city of Obama. So there may be some challenges and difficulties faced by school meals, but if you listen to those presentations, we are now guaranteeing one meal for children. And based on the laws and regulation of Japan, we do have certain standard. So we do not offer option to children. However, based on the standard, we can offer school meals equally to all the children. And I think that's one good point about Japanese framework. Thank you very much, Professor Takemi. So when the student poverty is oftentimes covered by media, and I would like to invite students for their comments if there are any. Takahashi-san? From the sub venue, we have participants. My name is Takano from Kagawa Nutrition University. I'm a student of this university, and I had to refrain from doing my part-time work, and I'm not one of those. My friends were also doing the same, but as a result, their income was dramatically reduced, and they had to skip meal. We are students at Kagawa Nutrition University. However, ironically, students at that university is skipping meals due to the income drop. So they are. We were receiving food support on rice and retort food. But those, food aid is very much skewed toward the processed food or food that can be stored for a long period of time. So I think we need to understand better how we can get better nutrition from those even processed food. Thank you very much. I understand that students are in a very difficult situation.
Now I would like to invite the next speaker, focusing on socially vulnerable people and consider what sort of approach is available to with this theme. Professor Murayama will give us a presentation. So Professor Murayama, now the floor is yours. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. With regards to the theme, which is vulnerable group population or the vulnerable people, approach to the vulnerable people. So my study is focusing on how to approach those people in the context of the different social backgrounds and situations. So let me share with you my report. Basically, there are two items. First is the children's food disparity. Second is the countermeasure for that issue. As for the measure, the first item, the school meal, is the population approach for not to leave anyone behind. And also the second one, the food bank, which is aiming at the sustainable society based on a partnership. The children's cafeteria, which is the idea of evolving the poverty alleviation measure to the community development. So with that, I'd like to proceed. So with this slide, this is the reality of the poverty rate in Japan. So the rate of the poverty for the children in 1980s, it's been increasing. But as for the promotion of the countermeasure or the law actually implemented and enacted 2013, from that point onwards, the number and trend actually declined. And 13.3%, so 1 out of 7 children is now under the poverty line. Please look at the right-hand side. So this is the graph, the poverty rate of the children with the household with single adults. And it means 1 out of 2 children are actually under the poverty line. So this is a comparison of the international situation. Japan, the poverty rate of the children is quite high. And especially the Japan is the highest in terms of the household with single parents or single adults. This is the graph showing the dietary life of the children based on the sort of household situation. The orange shows the household or the low-income family under the poverty line, and something that other than that is shown in blue. So in this comparison, the breakfast for weekdays as well as the weekend holidays, the breakfast intake is less, and also they intake so they take more number of instant noodles and easy food rather than meat and vegetables. Based on that, we also surveyed the lifestyle of the parent. So the low-income family parent actually responded, the majority said that they'll have no idea of the healthy food and diet for the children and appropriate volume. And accordingly, because of the economic situation, there are sometimes those protein sources like fish and meat and vegetables are not affordable. I will go into detail later, but the likelihood of those group of children in their intake of the vegetable is less than for those who are not from those kind of family or household. So this is the example of the food for children who is coming or who is under the household on welfare. So they constantly take the easy beverage and also the toast or snacks. So basically, those children has less opportunity and experience to have fully nutritious food or meal. So based on the nationwide study, we further pick up the data, the prevalence of the children or baby weight gain, which is insufficient. So it means the lower house income tend to show the higher prevalence of the children or baby whose body weight is insufficient from the birth to up to 18 months. And this is the impact of COVID-19 under the emergency declaration. Due to the closure of the school, children cannot get the school meal. So before and after, we actually compare the food or the meal situation. As mentioned earlier, the left-hand side, in overall, the ratio of the children who take more than 2 times fish, meat, and vegetable in one dish is less and lower under the COVID impact, especially severe to those low-income family. Right-hand side, this is the attitude and knowledge of the parent. Low-income family again show the lower score in terms of this kind of level, this kind of knowledge and skill. So in overall, with low income, often the case family can't get or purchase the sufficient food with good nutrition, and also lack of the knowledge of the parent. Children had less opportunity to get sufficient nutrition or balanced meal. And also they often have very simple, non-well-balanced meal. So accordingly, we'll have the issue, not just the malnutrition or the slow growth, but also the lack of the experience of have a full-fledged nutritious meal in family life. And that indicates that this impact will actually occur and emerge in the future, and also body structure difference, health condition difference, and also impact the result of the academic performance. And also that poverty behavior, poverty situation would be handed over to the next generation. So in order to cut that negative chain, we have to approach to the family and also to children. Regarding the approach to the children, we have to secure the sufficient nutrition. At the same time, we should provide the education, the food and nutrition to let them manage themselves independent nutritious food intake. So let me further think about the approach to the children. So this is actually the quote, partially quoted from the study by Professor Kondo and adding some comments from our study. So in right-hand side shows the overall approach or the population approach. Left-hand side shows that the approach to the welfare family, and upper side shows the government, lower side private sectors. So with that mapping, we'd like to look at the school meal first. So this graph shows the evidence that nutrition intake affected by the household income. And this graph shows actually the totally 4 days, 2 days in weekdays and 2 days in weekends or holiday, calculating the amount of the protein intake. And overall, during the holidays and weekdays, which doesn't have school, the intake is less. And also, the graph shows the impact of variance across the different level of the income. So the higher income shown in gray is higher than the low income shown in red. And also, we compare the intake of the nutrition of the children per income level and also with or without school meal. So the reference shown in yellow is the one. It is the middle level of income average, and put it as one, we compare the low income family and high income family. Many of the nutritious elements, well, more likely the children have lack of those sufficient nutrition in low income family. And also, not just the intake of the nutrition, the school meal actually cooked tasty and also with a good balance. So that experience can be shared by all the children in the school. So the Shokuiku is actually realized through the school meal, and that is the opportunity to let children learn the actual experience and knowledge about Shokuiku by themselves. And then having said that, this is the ratio of school meal. So junior school, almost 100%, and junior high school, about 75%. So in order to realize that the Shokuiku, that nobody left behind, the school meal is quite impactful too. And junior high school, actually implementation of the school meal is rather low in the past. So in the third basic plan, target includes that the providing school meal for the junior high school. And so this is a ratio which we need to improve further. So when we look at junior high school meal, this is the graph showing per prefecture. For those prefecture which have low implementation, actually constantly low in the course of time. But generally, in overall, however, the ratio increased. So in 2018, it reaches 85.3%. Secondly, I'd like to highlight the food bank. So that is the approach to the impoverished family driven by the private sector. So as of 2019 in Japan, there are about 110 food banks nationwide, and the Food Bank Promotion Council established in 2015. This is the example of the food bank Yamanashi. So the food bank collect the food from donation and farmers and citizens and provide and distributed to the needed families through the information got from the administration or social welfare council. So with the activities, facilities or individual who actually need them receive the food. That actually had a positive impact for not just providing the food, but at the same time, they are able to reduce the food loss. And also Food Bank Yamanashi conduct the other project. During the summer vacation, where children can get school meal, they have very intensive program to provide food for the children. Besides that, they have a kind of consultation session to make the connection in a community and also provide opportunity to cook together. So the food bank aiming at reduce the food loss and also create the sustainable community in collaboration with the company and also producers and for those who need it. So that is in overall the partnership activity. Lastly, I'd like to introduce the approach of the children cafeteria, which is the approach for the population approach driven by private sector. So the children's cafeteria has been growing and increasing its number from the 2013. They provide the free or inexpensive meal, and most of the cafeterias are operated by the volunteer in community. Everyone can attend, and also even children alone, they can join. And actually, the cafeteria open once or twice per month. Besides that, the cafeteria supporting also creating the place for the children and also place for the parents and somehow contributing the community development. So in 2020, the children's cafeteria is now nearly 5,000 in nationwide. So this is the purpose of the, operator of the children's cafeteria aims at the following the purpose with their activities. And the majority of them actually said that the activity is for creating the place for the children who had variety of background, and also creation of the spaces where children can communicate with the residents of the community, and also providing well-balanced, nutritious food, also providing the opportunity for cooking together with the children. In overall, they are actually promoting the Shokuiku to involve children to learn and experience the cooking and also knowledge about the nutrition. Last slide, please. So the fourth basic plan for the promotion of Shokuiku actually include promotion of the Shokuiku for those impoverished children, and including the food bank and an NPO, and also the children's cafeteria. And these activities are fully take advantage to implement good shokuiku for the children. And that's all from me. Thank you very much. Professor Murayama, thank you very much.
So next, we are going to learn from the case study from Obama City. They are working on the community development based on the food. 2001, they created the special town ordinance of food-based town development. And they say, Miketsukuni, Wakasa, Obama food pavilions. Ms. Nakata, please. Thank you very much for your introduction. I'm Nakata. Do you see my slide? Yes, we can see them. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nakata. I am from a food-based city development department of Obama City. We have a beautiful Riafu beach, and thanks to this beautiful nature, the town have developed. We have seafood, and then also the swords were presented to the imperial household. And even after that, we always ship the mackerel and other seafood to the Kyoto city. And this is a beautiful landscape of Obama City. We are blessed with many temples and shrines. We still have very traditional festivals. And we are really blessed with beautiful and also very tasty seafood in different seasons. And also we have a great processing technologies. The ancient days that the people make no waste of the seafood and also fish, and then really created the special techniques such as the fermented mackerel and also special fermented fish. But this is not just for the food. We have utensils such as chopsticks. So Wakasa urushi chopsticks, the Japan chopsticks is the largest in the production, and also these special chopsticks were utilized for the expo and others, and very popular. So we are proud of such a great history of the food and also the history of the food processing. And in 2008, the Obama City started the food-based city development. Next year, for the first time in Japan, that we created Obama City Food-Based City Development Ordinance, and then 2 decades have passed since then. So based upon that almost to 20 years, that we revitalized the industry and also preserved the environment, improving the social welfare, and also improving the dietary education, working on this city development based on food. So this is the ordinance of the Obama City. We have local resources, so that based on these local resources, we develop our town. And also, we have a great history of food, and food should be the center of our development. We also make sure that we work with the citizens. So this is sustainable food-based city development core. And especially, we have a dietary education center called Food and Culture Museum. So I'm actually participating from this museum remotely. So this is the inside of the museum. These are the replica of the beautiful meals, about 700 of them. And we have the intangible cultural heritage of the UN. The Japanese cuisines are all displayed with replicas and also beautiful pictures. And among them, we have a kitchen studio so that you can also cook the real authentic meal in the museums. From 2-year-old to the 80-year-old, 35,000 visitors in a year enjoy this kitchen studio. We also have a special classes for the dietary education from children to the adults. They learn about how to select the food ingredients and also try to improve the food literacy. We have a special guidebook so that they can learn about all over the food. So this is the special guide or guidelines or booklet about how to improve your health by eating a good food. So 2003 that we created the city development ordinance, and 2005 we constructed the Food and Culture Museum, which became a symbol of our city. And 2013 we created a brochure so that we really set the mindset of living very healthy with food. So from now on, I would like to talk about the dietary education. 2003, we promoted the food education, and we created the two words, lifelong food education and a mandatory food education. So we leave no one behind, and we educate everyone in our town. So these two are the core of our education. So what about the mandatory food educations? The 5-year-old, the 6-year-old must participate in kids' kitchen. So I'd like to take this as a case studies. Please look at 3-minute video. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the videos. So even small kids try to cut the fish. So when you cut the fish, you really understand that you are eating someone's life. So you really appreciate what you are eating. So this type of food education is very important. Rice, vegetables, and then fish. It is tasty and then healthy, but also it really work on the people's mind and then beautiful textbooks for everyone. So at the kids' kitchens, that in the process of cooking, we try to provide eight different regions and 43 different items. We also score them. So this is different from the regular kids kitchen class. This is an education program, and we've been doing so for more than 19 years. And what about their changes at the families? We also conduct the surveys. It is interesting to see that among the different questions, that even though they participate one time, they start seeing the changes outside of the food tradition. For example, like they became confident about himself or herself, or they try to challenge new things, they widen the view. So they participate only as children, but the families, they also give the ramification for the parents. So this type of food education is very important, and not just for the children, but indirectly really gives the impact to the parents and adults. So this is about the school meals. All the primary school and junior high school have the lunches with local ingredients, and these are all from the local ingredients. This is a sea bream. One sea bream can be eaten by one children, so that Wakasa, Japan, nuribashi, the chopsticks, is used to eat tasty sea breams. So you eat the half of the sea bream. So when you eat the rest of it, you don't actually turn it over. You have to take the bone out and eat it. So this is the result of that. So you still have some meat there, so you really have to finish everything. So lastly, with this mandatory food education classes, that when they become adult, maybe you are interested in what would be the difference. So recently, we started taking a survey of people who participate in a coming of age event in different events. So in 2020, about 30% of the participants answered to this survey. So there are many questions, but I give you some of the exemplary answers. The kids' kitchens. So do you remember those experience? Then 96.6% said yes. And then is it useful? And then 91.8% said yes. And also the people feel that they're deeply connected in the community, the 84.9%. And also 88.3% saying that they are lucky that they were born in Obama City. And also 74.4% answered that my children should be raised in Obama City just like me. So this shows that the effect and also the achievement of our food education. So that the food education also gives a very positive impact to the people when they become old. And also it can enhance the pride on their hometown, and also the increase the affection for their hometowns. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nakata, for your presentation. So there, we have identified several, issues in the first half discussion. And as an example of the fundamental population approach, we listened to the cases of the school meal, kids kitchen, food bank, and also we listened to the initiative taken by the city of Obama on lifelong dietary education. And we have a question at this point of time. So based on your presentations, we came to understand that food bank or kids kitchen are offering a place to stay for the participants. So those places, forums are the place for communication around food. So what is the expected role on food banks and kids' kitchen rather than just offering food? Professor Murayama? Yes, there are two things. One, this is a place to offer food experience in a very diversified manner. The fundamental, in order to realize fundamental population approach, places other than schools and homes, we need to set up the places where children or people can have a first-hand experience on food. And we need to offer those opportunities for everyone free of charge. That's another important aspect that we need to embrace. So we need to create a situation where everyone can participate the experience or send out the information proactively related to food and diet. And the other role is community building. Adults in the community is watching over children through food programs, food events. That's another way of connecting people, building a community. That's all from me. Thank you very much. So we need to set up the forum where we can offer food-related experience. So in order to expand best practices, what kind of stakeholder do we need to engage? If anyone from the audience has some comments, please raise your hand. Yes, I am Tonsha from Ochanamizu Women's University. I worked in 5 or 6 different kids' kitchen or the shelters which offer food or meal to children. Based on my own experience, I learned that it's very important to offer those places to children other than homes or schools, because that way we can offer psychological safety to the children. And through food, as Professor Murayama mentioned earlier, well, actually we can work with farmers so that we can enrich the contents of the food program itself. And also, we need to better utilize the local resources. So school is one of the big hub, but maybe temples or Patnam stores, retail shops in the local area, we may need to engage those people as well. Thank you very much. We need to offer a place where children can naturally, have good experience. It's important. Next, we listen to the initiative implemented by the city of Obama. They offer compulsory dietary education from, early ages. But I guess Obama City is one of the exception. So for those who didn't receive compulsory dietary education, what can we do to teach them about the importance of food? And what kind of population approach can we consider targeting at the vulnerable working people? Ms. Kotake, please. Thank you very much. So, we run our business outside of Japan as well, and Africa. We talk about food and cooking. And food and cooking can create employment opportunity to the people in Africa. And that's something we've been working on. So when it comes to the dietary education, we oftentimes think that people think about their own health. However, if people are connected to each other better, and then they can think about dietary education from other people's perspective. Right. we need to offer forum where people can have experience for food. I would also like to open to the floor. So does anyone in the audience have any comment on this, please? I am Sayaka Sato from Ochanomizu Women's University. Ms. Nakata introduced a beautiful initiative of Obama City. They offer food or dietary education to children utilizing local food. In my hometown, we don't have sea, but we run a kids cafeteria or food a meal session for elderly using the local ingredients. And we oftentimes can engage elderly who are living alone or children whose both parents are working. And sometimes I feel that the people who are, participating are quite limited. But children, I understand, are receiving a dietary education at school. But what about the elderly, population? How can we approach to the elderly population, not children? Does any panelist have good advice for me, please? Thank you very much. I would like to ask Ms. Nakata to comment on this question, please. Yes, thank you very much for the question. In the case of Obama City, we do have a food museum, which plays important role. And on top of that, there are 12 different regions in Obama City, and there is always community-based civil hall. So civil hall can hold event such as cooking class for elderly. And also we conduct like a casual salon to engage elderly population. So various organizations are holding this kind of programs or sessions in various areas of Obama City for entire population. So maybe the situation is different in your hometown. However, we need to engage elderly population in casual setting. That's one important aspect. Thank you very much. So by utilizing the nearby civic hall, we can offer cooking, class or salon to the elderly. Moving on to the next question, when we conduct a food program in underpopulated area, or when we offer school meal program outside of Japan, we need to adjust the contents based on the locally available resources. So how can we implement Japanese experience outside of Japan? Ms. Nakata, I do understand that you're introducing the case or best practice of Obama City outside of Japan. Can you comment? Yes, based on my own experience, this is what I can tell you. Dietary education is important. There is a good value attached to the dietary value. That's first of all needs to be understood by the local people outside of Japan. Food creates health of people, and it also acts on the psychological aspect. It also, affects or influence the industry in that local market. In the past, in 2006, we worked in Keishu City in Korea. In 2015, we went to Italy and we worked with the local children, and we offered a kids kitchen program in those countries. And even outside of Japan, something like Kids Kitchen, the event that use cooking food as a tool is turning to be very effective.
And also, well, very much Japan-like food education, nutrition education. Thank you for the meal, gochiso-sama and mottai-nai. The concept can be introduced in kids' kitchen. So that's a kind of the cooking session, and also the workshop will be maybe quite appealing even outside of Japan. Thank you very much. So not just a word, but the value and idea behind them to be also educated and also communicated. That is quite important. And thank you very much for the comment, Ms. Nakata. So now I'd like to ask the sub-venue overseas students, when you think about implement this kind of activities, how can you modify the program, or how can you realize this program? And also, is there anything Japan can support in that activity in your country? Well, thank you very much for the presentation, presenters. My name's Akrim. I'm from Indonesia. I'm from Kagawa Nutrition University.
When we talk about the school lunch program, we have established the school program since the 1990 to 1998. So we have established for about 8 years, and the school lunch program success to reach about 16,000 schools and about 2 million elementary school. But in 1998, because Indonesia have crisis, so at that time we stopped the school lunch program, and until now we don't have any specific school lunch program. But the interesting thing that I learned from the school lunch program in Japan, maybe when I back to Indonesia, as I know in Japan, they provide one nutritionist, for example, for one school. But in Indonesia, we don't have that kind of regulation. So I think it's a good idea if we can put one nutritionist to arrange, for example, monthly or weekly menu for the specific school as well. And the thing also in Indonesia that we have to consider that it's different with Japan, because in Indonesia, we have a canteen which provide also many snacks, we can say unhealthy snacks, that maybe also can contribute to the not really good nutrition for the students. So beside we setting the regulation for the school program, we have to also maybe make a policy about supporting the healthy food in the school as well, like for example in the canteen. So I think that's 2 points from nutritionists and also the regulation of the canteen in Indonesian school that maybe we can apply in Indonesia after I back to my own country. Thank you very much.
Akrim, thank you very much for your comment. Is there any other comment or opinion from other overseas students?
Thank you very much for all the presentations. My name is Bui Thu Hien and I'm from Vietnam. Right now, I'm a second year graduate student from Yoshie Daigaku. And like in Vietnam, we also have very different geographic areas. For example, the city area and the mountainous area, the coastal areas. And between among those different areas, there's also like different culture and different like food source of food available. So when it comes to school lunch or nutrition educations, we cannot apply the same content for all of the country. However, right now, we haven't established the nutrition educations, but about 90% of the school of elementary school in Vietnam have school lunch. But we don't have a very clear guideline for school lunch. So like when I see the example of Obama City, I think we should also teach children how to choose food from the source of food that are available at their places, as well as we should like create appropriate menus for each area in the country. And different from Japan, in Vietnam, we are still lacking of the research about local food compositions, local food culture, or local dietary habit. So I think in order to improve the school lunch as well as nutrition education for the student. We should done more research, and like we can take Japan as an example. So that's all of my thoughts. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございます。ベトナムの
Thank you very much. So, thank you for sharing with us the reality of the school lunch or the school meal in Vietnam. Is there any other comments from the overseas students?
Thank you very much for the presentation. My name is Adeline and I'm from Malaysia. Different from that, I would like to 日本語でチャレンジしたいと思います。
I try to speak in Japanese with a great challenge. So, Shokuiku, the nutrition education in Obama City, the first, I'm very much surprised and impressed that how the Obama City is promoting the education of the nutrition in school. In Malaysia, there's no the prefecture or the cases like Obama City in my country. So, in a sense, I truly wish that we can introduce the system like Obama City in Malaysian schools. Especially Japan's school meal system is great. And in Malaysia, the school size in Malaysia is rather smaller compared with Japan. And also, there's no the school meal system implemented in Malaysia. So the children get money from the parent to buy their lunch at school or school shop. So for those children from poor family cannot afford their lunch sometimes, they often skip the lunch. So the Malaysian government, I assume, so I believe that the Malaysian government should learn from Japanese government how to implement nutritious school meal to all the Malaysian school. So now the overseas students from Indonesia and Malaysia share with us the school meal situation in their own countries. Thank you very much. So Professor Murayama, do you have any comment to those shared information? Yes, thank you very much. So, so I just heard that the overseas students actually accurately captured the situation of Japanese school meal situation, and also I appreciated that I'm pleased that they said that they would like to implement a similar system in their own countries. Having said that, I have been engaged in several years in Bangladesh to implement the similar system, school meal, and also as a new project, I'm joining the launch of the system with school project, a school meal in other countries as well. Having said that, when I think about the system, well, maybe the concept, the idea will do, but the system itself cannot be straightly imported or exported from Japan. So the important concept or factor here is that, first of all, providing appropriate meal, that is the school meal, and school meal itself is serving as a material for educating students about nutrition and meal. So having well-balanced, nutritious food every day, that is the key message underlying this program, and that concept should not be changed wherever we implement this project. Professor Murayama, thank you very much.
All right, then upon those discussions, Ms. Maeda, please, floor is yours. Thank you very much for the various insightful comments, and also the foreign students studying in Japan, that I'm so happy to have so many positive comments. So through this session, I hope that the participants will have some insights and others. The food at home is very basics and also very important for children, but sometimes you cannot have enough of those. The school meals are important, but there are some differences in different regions, and also due to pandemic, there are some negative impacts. So the socially vulnerable people, we should not really leave no one behind, especially the community approach is very important. And I really feel that very strongly during this discussion. So as a national activities, we really have to promote the food education. So many people are very much feeling anxiety due to the pandemic. So through food education, everybody can really enjoy eating and cooking and then sharing a great time with someone on the table. So not just us, but also we want to collaborate with the local communities, agencies, government, and also private sectors, NPOs. So people with different backgrounds, we have to really work together to promote this idea. So I really want to expand the ring of food education even further. Thank you very much, everyone. Maeda-san, thank you so much. All right, it is time to stop the discussion. So I would like to ask Professor Takemi to summarize today's topic. Well, everyone, thank you so much for your contributions. We will leave no one behind. So this is the food education. So we have discussed about the population approach. The population approach doesn't mean that we have to treat everyone equally. So from that viewpoint, we have to focus on targets. We can't really treat everyone. We have to focus on certain groups and have to come up with the appropriate way of doing it, and also the experience most appropriate for that group. So I've been listening to your discussions and presentations, and I feel like I saw a jigsaw puzzle. Like let's say there are jigsaw puzzle in the community. The people have been working on the food education, that they fill all the pieces, but there are some gaps. So what type of piece do we put in those gaps? So what kind of a piece we have to have, and also the stakeholder should be decided and selected to really come up with the rest of the puzzle. I hope that we can have a beautiful jigsaw puzzle at the end, so that we can really go into the approach and direction that it was food strategy that the Japan government of Japan created. And I think today is going to be one of the starting day for creating the beautiful jigsaw puzzle. So every one of you really think of what they can do or what you can do from your point of view. Thank you very much, Professor Takemi. Through these sessions, we hope that the not just developing the capability to really produce a good food, but also enjoy cookings and also enjoy food, so that everyone can really enjoy daily lives through food and other experiences. And towards the problem solvings, you shown the 2 use cases, and I think that we can also discuss about how we can make use of them. There's no clear solutions. That's why we really have to use the case studies, and using limited resources, have to think of what we can do. We have to take it into our own experience and really get into the food education problems. I personally felt that I really want to discuss this theme with other students, and also want to participate in the food volunteer. So even in a very small activity, I really want to work on it step by step and accumulate my deed. So thank you very much. This is the end of the session 4. Thank you very much for participating in this session.